You've got a branch of Christianity that claims that the only way to Jesus Christ is through faith. Faith alone, it's not your works. There are some people that add in it's works and that, and then there's some people that actually believe it's only works. But for those branch of people that think it's only faith, this is the highest, most immoral double standard you could have out there, is a God who doesn't understand faith, can't relate to it, can't have it no matter how hard he tried, and then he's willing to torment you based on you not being able to do the thing that he can't even do himself. And so, in my opinion, that is God's blind spot.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point. You would think that God would know that belief is not voluntary. You know,
exactly.
You can't choose what you're convinced of. Would a God not know that? Right.
Exactly. And if he did know that and still wanted to punish on the grounds of that, that just proves how much of a monster he is.
What kind of admirable figure not only wants but demands worship? Only tyrants.
You should be
the worst examples of humanity.
I don't think anybody deserves worship or anything deserves worship, but like, let's soften it to reverence. You know, you have to be deserving of that.
Exactly.
And not ask for it. If you ask for it, it's like, you like that one.
Because you create something. Like a parent creates a child, but if they're a horrible parent, they don't deserve any kind of praise, do they?
Exactly.
What kind of parent is God? He's an absentee parent. He's a negligent parent. Okay, so say you had a dad that you knew existed, and he left cryptic messages on the refrigerator for you. And I got this from somewhere, I don't remember where. What would you think of that dad? He was never there to take care of you, but he just dropped off little messages, vague and conflicting messages, and come on.
That's
and what if he made a torture chamber in the basement for you? If you didn't somehow put all the messages together and follow it right,
Like it's your fault now. It's a victim blaming system at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And you made a point in your video, theists will say, if God is love and hell is merely the separation from him, he's still torturing or allowing torture to an extreme degree. And so that still conflicts with the assertion that he's a loving
it's still torture. If you're separated from love, peace, like all those good things on that polarity, it's still torment. People like to soften it. My stepfather does this. He believes, one time he told me, he said, well, I don't believe in a literal hell. I just believe it's separation from God. And then I said to him, well, what's the problem with that?
Because God would be responsible for everything. If he's all knowing, all powerful, and he knew everything. So he created the devil, I guess, and he allows him to do what he does if he exists. So,
exactly.
And how many people have killed for the cause of the devil compared to God?
10. In the name of only because God told him.
Satan, I'm going to go on a crusade and kill all these people. Nah, that's never happened.
Exactly.
So that's a curious fact.
I think it's Job's family is like the only people that the devil killed, and it's only because God told him to do it.
Yeah.
I brought this up. Do what?
What's that?
I was going to say, I'll bring that up to people because I like the way that Matt Dillahunty phrases the question of how did you know that God's the good guy and the devil's the bad guy? And usually, instead of asking that, I'll say, how do we discern? Because a lot of Christians down here love that word. I'm like, how do we discern between a good guy and a bad guy? And they'll always go onto it's about their works. They move out of a faith parameter completely, and it's all about works. And so when you mention how many times God has commanded the decapitation of people just so that he can take a chill pill, the killing, murdering, raping, and kidnapping and enslaving of all kinds of people, and yet the devil only killed 10, and it's because God told them to. And I ask them, so does that mean that God's the bad guy? And they say no. And I ask, how do you know that? And they say, well, God's got a good reason for it. It's the craziest thing. And it's so hard to get around that for them because they only bring up that rebuttal because there's nothing left. They've hit a block in their own mind. So even if you can get around it, if the goal is to help them and to change their mind, it's not going to work at that point. You want the person to do it, and I've learned honestly to just stop talking at that point because someone else might do it for them, or they might sit alone and think about it, and they'll be like, you know what, they were right about this one thing. Because I mean, that's one of the ways that I changed my mind was listening to atheists talk, and then after going to work and thinking about it, I was like, that is a good point, and I completely agree with it.
And so many people are not exposed to so many arguments and facts.
Exactly.
Just never
That's what
thought
inspires
about.
me to do what I do.
Because I know I didn't, before like 8 years ago or so. I never thought to ask certain questions, So definitely. Hayden, can you tell me how a human or a blood sacrifice can solve anything? How that makes sense?
Apparently, a blood sacrifice of an innocent person can make up the immorality and sins of an entire civilization. Not only that, but generations to come. Yeah. I don't understand how that is the way that it is, but I can tell you, when I was a Christian, the way that it made sense to me was that, you've got Abraham who's willing to sacrifice his own son. Not only that, God's got to one-up him. He's like, I'm divine. I'm already above you. So I'm going to send not only my son, but myself to die, which isn't really a sacrifice. But when you're a Christian, you don't think about that. You think
he didn't stay dead. There are people that have sacrificed their only lives for for other people. Jesus, he had a bad weekend.
At the end of the day, because now he's
who wouldn't do that deal, right? To save the world. But the world's still not saved, though. These problems are continuous. They. Well, Hayden, what is your response to people that say, your morality is still based on Christianity? That you're still a cultural Christian? What would you say to that?
I'd say that they're wrong. I mean, it just takes reading maybe 5 pages. You could pick 5 pages out of the Bible right now to know that that's absolutely not true. I mean, let's stone your children for being unruly. Right. Stepfathers are looked at inferiorly.
You look at the 10 Commandments. The Western world is not based on the 10 Commandments. The first one is you shall have no other God. And like the death penalty is for worshiping other gods. Like our laws are exactly the opposite of that. Thank goodness for that.
Have you read The Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel? I just got this book about a month ago. Good. I haven't had the chance to read it.
And I missed getting it signed last year. He was at some university, I forget, and I was gonna go, but I didn't get to. It's a very good book. You'll enjoy it. Very, very good. And this is a topic I have read a lot in about, the founding fathers. I have an entire book with Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, everything they ever wrote, because their letters are full of insults to Christianity and people that are clearly free thinkers and products of the Enlightenment. And then
because you've got a lot of history in your Justified Faith book, and history is always.
I'm a big history guy. Yeah. What's your worst topic?
Yep. So I'm definitely trying to look more into that now.
Well, it matters because if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. You have to know where you came from to get a bearing on where you're going. You know what I mean?
It's like if you forgot the last 20 years of your life. It's like every 20 years you're going to forget the last 20. You're going to make those same mistakes that you made as a teenager all over again.
If you didn't know about the Nazis, you might be tempted to slide into that, without seeing it coming, something like that. So
you're like, we've made this mistake.
Right. So what I say to people is, I reject Christianity's metaphysical claims. I'm against basing life on faith, authority, or blind obedience. I'm against human sacrifice and deeply against the whole idea of hell. I find cannibalistic and vampiristic rituals distasteful. I think condemning innocent descendants immoral. I'm not okay with slavery or misogyny. I don't believe in rendering unto Caesar no matter what, or that Caesars have been placed on earth by God. I'm not for murdering heretics or hating or abandoning family if they believe differently. I don't think it's wise or healthy to preach the imminent end of the world. And I'm for teaching, microorganisms as the cause of sickness, not demons. And I think the existence of exorcists is comically horrific.
You sound like Jesus. That's what a lot of people say when you have good morals. They'll be like, "Oh, you would be if you were a believer, you'd be the best Christian." And it's like,
and I also don't think rape victims should marry their rapists, and I'm for investigation, not revelation. So, no, that doesn't work. And when Christianity ruled the world, it was the Dark Ages. We didn't have all these concepts, philosophical, secular concepts that we got with the Enlightenment and things like that.
Hello, everybody. So that was a clip from me and Landon's podcast called Quarantine Conversations that I got to be a part of. And we got to talk about a lot, as that was only, I think, about a 9-minute clip of 43 minutes of us going over a little bit about the importance of history, the Garden of Eden, mathematics, reductionism. We talked a little bit about capital punishment. We talked about a lot of things. Either way, if this conversation so far has interested you, I highly advise that you go down below and click the link to his channel and go and check out our talk. He also has recently had Lawrence Krauss on his number 5 episode, and that's a really good one as well. All of them are good in my opinion. Of course, I think mine's the best. But I really think you should go check them out. Watch the whole thing there. Either way, I hope you enjoyed, and have a great day.